back to another video where we're going to take a little bit of a closer look into some of the CSS styles that can be applied to a simple web page to take it from something pretty basic to more lively and more colorful. I'm going to click on this box right here, open my preview up in a new tab, and this is much better. I can see kind of everything that's going on my page. The first thing we're going to attack here is color, adding background color, text color, all of those good things. Now, in a previous video, you learned how to apply color to a web page with color names or Google's color picker. But today I'm going to show you one of my absolute favorite resources, which is a website called Coolors. Coolors is a website with different color palettes. They've got a lot of amazing features, one of which is a palette generator, and it'll give you a random palette, a trending palette viewer, where you can see palettes that other users have incorporated onto their websites. But my personal favorite feature of the page is in the tools. It's this image picker tool. Let's go ahead and take a look. With the image picker, you can actually take an image of your choosing and get specific colors out of that image. While this is a beautiful picture, it's not my Cajun fries. So I'm going to upload the image that I've saved to my computer. As you can see, now my Cajun fries are loaded into the picture. I'm going to go ahead and move things around a little bit and change the colors that I'm grabbing. I feel like I'm going to want a lightish gray for my background. I also feel like maybe I'll want this color, although I'm not quite sure. I like that brownish color. Let me change this one to green. And let me change this one to like a color of a nice crispy fry. Oops, I changed my green. That's okay. I can go and get a black. All right. I feel pretty comfortable with the colors that I've chosen, so I'm going to click this arrow here and quick view my palette. As I mentioned, you can use a hex code. You could also use RGB values to add color to your page. I'm going to copy this hex code, and I'm going to paste it in. And notice that nothing pops up. You need to incorporate a pound sign in front of a hex code if you want the color to register on your page. Let's change it. Right now, we have this red that I got from the color picker, refresh, and I've got this nice gray color. Perhaps I also want to change the color of my font. I can do that with the color property. Let's take a look at my palette. I think I'm going to go with this like burnt color. I don't know what to call it. I don't know. Oops, I forgot my pound sign in the front. Let me add that on, put my semicolon at the end, and refresh one more time. Now my font is this nice kind of like burnt brownish red color on my gray background. When making choices about color, you want to be very strategic. You don't want to use too much color on your page, but you also want to make sure that your user is still able to read what you've got going on. I tend to defer to a light background with a darker text color, but ultimately, the choice is yours. Now let's do something that everyone always wants to do to their pages, which is center align some of the text. I'm going to do this just for my H1 element so you can see what happens. I'm going to text align center. Let's take a look. And I've just taken the fry fan and I've moved it over to the center of my window. That means no matter what happens, if I resize my browser, that title is always going to be right in the center. Now, let's say we want to give some white space to the elements on my page. I'm going to quickly add a border to this header element just to show you what white space can do. So if I add a border, this is what it does. It puts a border all the way around the fry fan on that like line of my page. Maybe you didn't expect the border to go all the way like that, and that's okay. We can kind of move that box in to make it fit with what we've got going on our page. The first way to add white space is with a margin. I'm just going to apply a left margin right now because I like to think of that like the red line on a piece of loose leaf paper. Let's go with a 100 pixel margin and see what that looks like. What it's done is it's taken everything and it's pushed it 100 pixels in from the left side of my page. Maybe that's not what I wanted. Another way to add white space is with padding. Padding adds white space inside of an element. I'm going to put padding all around, so I'm not going to customize left, right, top, or bottom. Let's go with padding of 20 pixels. This padding is going to happen inside the border, so it's going to give some space between the border and the text itself. And there we go. I've moved back to the left because I've gotten rid of that margin, but I've given my title some room to breathe. Interesting. I'm going to comment these out for now because I don't need them. I just wanted to show you what you had as options. Okay. Let's take a look at some other properties. We've talked about text alignment. We've talked about color. We've talked about margins and padding. Let's take care of that image. This is the last thing that we want to address. There's several different ways that you can customize an image on your page. I'm going to center my image and change the size all at once. First thing I'm going to do to change my size is maximize a width. I want to tell my code and my page, no matter what, that image is only allowed to take up 50% of my screen. Only 50%. That's it. I'm also going to give it a height property of auto. What this will do is ensure that if I change the size of my browser, the image automatically readjusts. It doesn't shrink or grow in like a non-proportional way. It'll stay the way it is and just change, auto adjust to the size of my screen. All right. Boom. Look at that. My image is only taking up half of the total width of my page, that maximum width. But it's not centered. Well, I'm actually going to play with the margins. I can give this image auto margins, and what it will do is add margins on the left and right hand side based upon how much of the width I'm allowing my image to take up. I also want to convert this image into a block display as opposed to an inline display. A block display is going to allow my image to have its own space on the page. It adds a line break before the image and a line break after the image. That way my margins can do their thing. Okay, let's take a look. It should be 50% of the page, auto margins, which have readjusted on either side, and it should have its own space. And there we go. These are just some of the things that you can do with CSS styling. I've got one more to show you, and it's probably my favorite, Google Fonts. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to type in my title so I can see it in all of these different fonts that Google has to offer. I'm also going to customize the categories of fonts that I'm looking at. Because this is a title, I'm going to choose to look at display or maybe handwriting fonts. I like permanent marker a lot, so I'm going to go ahead and select this font and then select this style. Once I've done that, it shows up in my selected families. There's two different ways to add these fonts onto your page, with a direct link or with an import link. I personally prefer to copy that import link and drop it at the very, very top of my style sheet. If you choose to go back and incorporate additional fonts into your web page, just make sure to update this import link every time. Now I'm going to grab these CSS rules and I'm going to specify this just for my header. So this is telling my page to use the permanent marker font for my H1 element, but if it's not available for some reason, use a cursive font instead. Let's refresh and take a look. Boom, there it is. Last thing I might want to do is change the size of that font, because even though it's a header, it's still pretty small compared to what I would think the main text on a web page or the title text on a web page would look like. So I can change my font size, and let's go with 72 pixels. Refresh, and there we have it. These are just some very, very quick style changes that you can make on your own pages. We encourage you to continue exploring all that CSS has to offer, and W3 Schools has a lot of really great CSS tutorials. We've talked about borders, backgrounds, colors, margins, paddings, text, fonts, max width, display, align. We've done a lot of these things, but there's so much more to play with. We encourage you to take a look as you continue to build out your websites during pre-work and beyond. I hope you enjoyed this video. Take care.